course, talk about this wonderful book. And that, come on, y'all give him a round of applause.
Good night, everyone. Welcome to this, the event of the year. I'm indeed pleased to be here. But more than that, I'm indeed pleased that you are here. Because without you, there would be no event. Probably Rosanna and I would be at home.
We are continuing with the program. We continue the program now. And we're going to ask Mr. Steve Maxime. This is Dad's last student.
I'm here to tell you about the 11th defining moment in Dr. Braffett's life. So, if you haven't read the book as yet, you're getting a first-hand look at his 11th defining moment. When he decided to take me on as a postgraduate student, I mentioned to him a few years ago that history is going to take a rather dim view of you if your last task at the University of the West Indies was to foist me on the agricultural sector. I speak on behalf of all of my colleagues at the University of the West Indies who passed under the tutelage of Dr. Braffett to tell you that while in 1956 he was contemplating certain things here in Barbados, I was born, got to the University of the West Indies as a struggler, because all through my life I had been asked, what do you want to be? I said successful, and what would you want to pursue? So whatever I managed to pass. So that I kept going through my life like that until I was lucky enough to pass agricultural science at GC, long before CXC, etc. I was lucky enough to go to the only school in Trinidad and Tobago that was doing agricultural science at GC. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to be in agriculture somewhere. Landed at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus, and this stately gentleman walked into the class one day and said something about last week when I was in Africa. And I turned to my colleague, Dr. Braffett knows well, Steve Skeet, who is also a member of the sector. I said, Steve, I'm going to be that. Whatever he is, whatever he's selling, I'm going to be that. And so said, so done. It turned out he was a plant pathologist. Of course, I was wondering why he didn't want to cut open dead plants to see what they died from, but you know. He made it so interesting. Everything just jumped out of not just the text, but his actual experience. So that every day we'd sit there waiting to hear of his experiences in Africa, all over the place. And to cut a long story short, I patterned that part of my career after Dr. Braffett. He has not only been a mentor, a role model, but someone that I've been able to confide in over the years. He literally took me under his wing to OTAN meetings. You remember OTAN? OTAN is still existing? Yeah. He took me to OTAN meetings when we formed the Caribbean Society of Plant Protection Specialists, and so I met Dr. Alain, Winston Small, and he always had me along as his protege. And it bothered me because I kept wondering, how am I going to explain this when I didn't think it would be a 70th birthday celebration, but I knew that he was going to aspire to great heights. And he warned me once. He said, Steve, do the work properly, which is something that lecturers have had to tell me over the years on more than one occasion. He specifically said, he said, that thesis is going to haunt you. You're going to be successful, and some young fellow is going to go to the library, look at your thesis, and say, look at the rubbish Maxime wrote. And that, to me, was my one defining moment. I've been standing there trying to find defining moments. There are very few of them in my less than illustrious career. But I think that statement that I should not do the kind of fly-by-night thesis I was planning to do, right? But not under his tutelage. I was also lucky enough to be around his life when he made that connection with a young lady looking for the drug. So I boast to all my friends that, oh yes, I knew them before they were married, you know. And depending on the audience, if people know the background, I tell them, you know, it varies from I introduce them to, you know. But having had the rug pulled from under me earlier, I can't say that I introduced them. But I knew that he was looking for a house in Arima, so if that is any connection. And when he mentioned Arima, I didn't say whether it's a bad area or a good area. So, you know, I feel some, you know, complicity in the whole thing. You know, so Rose, you know, you have me to thank. Because had I informed him that only criminals live in Arima, he would have passed me like a full bus, and that would have been the end of that. So here, as we celebrate his 70th birthday, 28 years of marriage, two things that I have had a small role in. Because having supported him when he left the University of the West Indies, I tried to pattern myself after me. I said, okay, he's a plant pathologist, I'll be a plant pathologist too. He's learning Spanish. Remember those days? He's learning Spanish. I would, well, probably not try that. But the thing is that I decided to follow him, you know, and say, he's going to marry a beautiful woman from Trinidad. I did the same thing too. I said, okay, good. So I said, we're on course. And over the years, I've tried to match him stride for stride and failed miserably, as you can all tell. But I've been able to inspire a lot of people. You see, my claim to fame is not just a giant, but a giant maker. So the idea is that when Trevor Murray got transferred, where's Trevor? Trevor, I want you to verify this story. When he was posted to Jamaica, I called him aside and said, do you know this is the route to the directorate? Because Chelston Braffett was here first and then went on to be director of ICA. Didn't I tell you to brace yourself? So I am a giant maker. So because I figured out that if you want to be head of ICA, you should really do some time in Jamaica. So I have Ignatius Jardier on standby that, you know, he's next in line to be director of ICA. But apart from my grand achievements in building these people, all I can add is that one of the, and I'm going to take from the poem from Brandon that we wouldn't cry, but one of the most defining moments in my life was when Pat Allen, and I think I told you that story, we were in St. Kitts for the Caribbean Week of Agriculture. I'm sitting next to the very distinguished Pat Allen, who I have a healthy respect for, and who's a no-nonsense individual. Dr. Braffett was giving a speech as head of ICA, and we were sitting there in awe as usual, rapt attention as usual, and Pat Allen did this, which for those of you who know Pat is not given to these, outward manifestations of friendship and and collegial, because this man is very senior to me, and so he was my director when I was at the Department of Agriculture. And he did this. And he said, that's you the next couple of years. And I think that was the biggest compliment anybody has ever given me. Thank you very much.
Yo, let's